North Lincolnshire, England, Saturday, June 1st, 1974. A sprawling industrial campus producing caprolactam sat quietly on the banks of the River Trent. Out in the surrounding villages, families were hanging laundry and mowing lawns. Inside the facility's control room, 18 men monitored gauges and exchanged weekend small talk. One young process operator, David, had told his wife he'd be home for supper by 6. Down on the plant floor, a delivery driver named Colin waited patiently in the cab of his truck for someone to sign his paperwork. These completely mundane routines were playing out directly on top of a mechanical time bomb, and tragically, there wasn't a single person on site qualified to recognize it. The trap had been set 2 months earlier. On March 27th, engineers discovered a vertical crack in reactor number 5, actively leaking a chemical called cyclohexane. To avoid shutting down production and losing money, management made a desperate decision. They removed the damaged reactor entirely and hastily installed a temporary bypass pipe to connect reactors 4 and 6 directly together. But there was a critical vacuum in oversight. The plant's maintenance engineer post had been vacant since the beginning of the year, and not a single remaining engineer on staff had any formal training in mechanical engineering. Because of this missing expertise, the hastily built bypass pipe was never subjected to a stress test before the plant was brought back online. What happened next was the strict mathematical result of prioritizing profit over proper engineering review. The unqualified staff completely missed a fatal physics flaw created by their modified system. Inside the bypass, high-speed liquid hitting the sharp bend exerted massive lateral pressure. This turning force relentlessly battered the temporary bellows for 2 months. Never designed for this outward stress, the metal fatigued and warped close to breaking. This temporary bypass acted as a physical trap, slowly being sprung by the very chemicals it was meant to carry. At exactly 5:53 p.m. on June 1st, the warped metal finally disagreed with the engineers and sheared wide open. A massive quantity of superheated cyclohexane violently escaped the system, instantly vaporizing into a dense, heavy gas the moment it hit the atmosphere. Cyclohexane vapor possesses 2 terrifying traits. It is completely invisible, and it is entirely odorless. Human senses cannot detect it. This massive cloud spilled silently across the plant floor. It crept in every direction, slowly enveloping the control room where the 18 men were finishing their Saturday shift. Expanding rapidly, the highly volatile gas only needed one thing to complete its deadly equation: a single, tiny spark. The men sitting inside the control room were completely blind to the massive, invisible threat surrounding them. Somewhere on the plant floor, the cloud found its spark. The ensuing explosion carried the force of 40 tons of TNT. It was so violent that the blast was heard 35 miles away. At the epicenter, the reinforced roof of the control room instantly collapsed inward, killing all 18 men inside before they had a chance to react. The shockwave rolled outward, triggering a fatal cardiac arrest in Colin as he sat waiting in his truck. Within a 1-mile radius, nearly 1,000 local buildings sustained serious damage. The explosion physically erased the control room, turning the men inside into the ultimate collateral damage of a hastily signed document. For 10 full days, fires continued to burn out of control across the wreckage. 28 people died on site, and dozens more suffered severe injuries. The official inquiry concluded the disaster was caused by a modification made without proper engineering review, signed off under financial pressure by unqualified hands. The control room logbooks, which might have explained exactly what the operators saw on their dials in those final seconds, were incinerated in the blast. Tonight is the 52nd anniversary of the last shift David ever worked. He left behind an empty chair and a supper never made. If this story stayed with you, press like. Subscribe to Dark Archives for more true stories that history tried to bury, and hit the bell so you never miss one. Share this with someone brave enough to watch alone tonight.